Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me again for this Talanoa Talk Story, Share to Inspire, where it is hoped that the story that my guest shares will help you or will motivate you to go for it and reach your goal. Today we're tweaking things a little bit. I'm going to talk to a good buddy here in Hawaii. We may talk about sport, but today we're going to focus on talking about the performing arts or the creative sector, and of course, asking my good friend Ty Sanga here, and he's going to share his stories. And I'm looking forward to talking about his work, and of course, what motivates or inspires him. But quickly, I want to share a little story about when I first met this guy here. It was actually at a gathering. Which this was a few years ago, not now. um, and when I met this guy, it was like a filmmaking gathering. It was actually for a good friend, and I'm going to talk to Ty about that a little bit later. But when I first met him, I thought that this guy's cool. Yeah, this guy's cool. And from there onwards, I followed his trail of amazing work, and up until now. So let's cut this chit chat nonsense for me, and let's go and have a look at this fine gentleman. Aloha, Ty.
Yeah, hello, brother. I got my little son in the background too.
Hi.
Thank you for the intro.
How you doing?
Good, good, good. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Life moves on, so I'm excited to find time to catch up with you. It's been a while,
Yeah,
brother. It's been a
yeah. It's
while.
been a long
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
So, mate, before we kick off to the big question about motivation, could you please, for our listeners and viewers, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. My name is Ty Sanga. I grew up here in Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii. Kalihi, actually. My dad's from here. My mom was actually an immigrant from the Philippines. You know, we had a really diverse background growing up in Kalihi. It's you see everything and everyone there, and I think that kind of helped shape my stories of the things that I try to tell. Um, I didn't actually want to be a storyteller when I was growing up. When I went to college, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I actually was really horrible at education and scholastics. Um, so I kind of floated through the university, and I ended up pursuing hotel management because all my family's in hotels. I just really couldn't do it. And then I took an ethnic studies class one day, one of the intro ethnic studies classes, and we watched a documentary called Sand Island Stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting in class, emotional, engaged, motivated to want to do something. But more importantly, like I saw ourselves on screen. Um, in that film, it talks about the evictions at Sand Island. So a lot of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders were being evicted there. And it set me on this path to become a filmmaker. So yeah.
That's wonderful. You go from you have an idea, oh yeah, this is what I want to do, but then your path kind of leads in a different direction. And thank you for going this direction because you have done some wonderful work, and I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, buddy, the big question. Please share your thoughts about what motivated you. I think you mentioned it briefly, but could you expand on that? What motivated you to go on this path into the
Yeah,
storytelling
you,
filmmaking business?
you know, and I love the hotel industry, because like, being born and raised in Hawaii, like, I mean, you love this place, like
Yeah.
it's the community, it's the aina, it's the sharing. It sounds so cliche, it's and you see it in all advertisements, but it's
Mhm.
actually true, because it's authentic. Or when it's authentic, it feels true, and there's power and mana in there. Um, so when I worked in the hotel industry, I actually worked there for 5 years.
Wow.
And just pursuing, my mother's a hotel manager. My father was in the industry too. All my aunts and uncles are in it as well. And I saw it as a viable place to make money, to live here in Hawaii because it's so expensive, and it's consistent. During that time, it was consistent. Now we live in a pandemic,
Yeah.
which shows how fragile it is. But I digress. But working in the industry, like I just couldn't do it. Like I at some points it felt soulless. And a lot of the things we catered towards the tourist, and sometimes in a negative way. And I just started not enjoying it. Granted, like I said, I love the hotel industry and the hotel working in the hotel business. But for me, it wasn't what I wanted to do. I kind of I was missing purpose, I guess. So when I took that class in ethnic studies, I went back to school actually. Um, Sorry, I'm jumping all around.
Oh,
I
that's
went,
okay.
yeah, I went to school for hotel management. I actually dropped out because I was already in the industry and I was kind of like trying to work my way up that route. And when I decided it wasn't my thing, I went back to school. So someone who hated school, I went back to school, um, and I took that ethnic studies class. And yeah, like really it's it was what I needed at that time in my life. It gave me a purpose. And ethnic studies, it's about the study of our cultures here in Hawaii, from the bottom up. It's not from a top down perspective. It's from the people. We are telling our stories. And I was just so like I was so wrapped up into all of that. A lot of it maybe is because my father passed away when I was in the 8th grade. So like to be able to like take my like Hawaiian language classes and learn about Hawaiian culture through school, kind of lit a fire under me. Like it's things like it filled a big void that I was missing, I guess. And then I wanted to tell those stories after that. So I guess that's kind of the start of the motivation. Um, well, I didn't realize this was going to be a counseling experience, so thank you for this.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
Let the healing begin.
Yes. Hey, mate, you mentioned uh, a couple of words popped up to me, and one of them was when you're talking about when you started working in the hotel or tourism industry, how it felt a little bit soulless. To me, my interpretation of that, correct me if I'm wrong, it felt like you hit a point where, okay, I have to find this, um, the seed that is bubbling inside of me. What is it that motivates me? Could you expand on that, please? And also, if you wouldn't mind connecting that to when you mentioned before about seeing yourself on the screen, or seeing others on the screen. That it felt like that those two words they're kind of connected and it kind of
Right,
moved you towards the storytelling arena.
right. Yeah, and everyone that knows the hotel industry, it's 24/7, 365 days a week. I worked with
Yeah.
holidays, weekends, anything, everything. Sometimes even overtime. And for me, I mean, I grew up from a working class family. Like I love getting dirty. I love working hard. I love taking care of my family. Um, but I would see my coworkers that work with me. They work multiple hotel jobs. They work in Waikiki. I was actually working in Kapolei at that time, so they work in Kapolei in the daytime. Then they drive out to Waikiki, work an night shift, and they do it again, the next day. And they have a family, so um, seeing those that type of future, I was like, man, I need to do something. If I'm going to work this hard for the rest of my life, I want it to have a purpose, or I want it to have meaning, even though I had no idea what that meant. Like it just felt weird to put so much of your time and effort into something that didn't really go back to the community or go back to us and our families. So that's why I went back to school, and so when I took the ethnic studies class and we watched that documentary, growing up just in general, we're exposed to film as our youth. Actually, because my mom and my dad was in the hotel industry, they were rarely home. So like me and my brother, we watched a ton of TV. Like that was what raised us in many ways. Watched a lot of movies, a lot of shows. It was just it was entertainment, but it's also some forms of education because it's being stuck in our brains.
Yeah.
Um,
What was
but
let's not jump in. What was one of those programs that or that has stuck with you since then? Or I'm gonna ask you, Ty, what was the one show that you just had to watch?
oh man. Um, well, I love the 80s stuff, and I can't just pick one right now. But Back to the Future was always that show film that like we'd always watch. That and Princess Bride, those two movies we watched a ton of times, me and my brother. We even watched Grease and Grease 2. So like all of those shows. Um, like we just consumed it. Like it was one of those things, I love musicals at times. And it's one of those things like we're watching shows, we're being and I didn't realize it, but I was already kind of being conditioned to like understand story and narrative through all of this media that was consuming. um but once I took that ethnic studies class, it flipped finally. Like there was a switch that changed. And like when I saw like there was uncles out on San Island that was being arrested and removed from their homes, and then their homes were being burnt down, like it was really emotional. And when I saw them, like I was like, dude, that's like my auntie and uncles, those are my cousins. Like I didn't know them, but I knew them. um
Mm-mm.
and then like from then on, it was like, dude, I needed to I like it. I didn't know I really wanted to be a filmmaker then. I just knew I needed to tell Hawaii stories. I took English classes after that, which is a big change for me because I wasn't, the best reader growing up. Like I guess because from having immigrant families, English wasn't my strongest language.
Hey,
So it's
yeah.
very broken English. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Being a child of immigrant family as well, and others,
Yeah.
English. If it came to you, it came to you. If it didn't, then well, it'll eventually happen. Because when you're talking with other kids, you soon enough learn how to speak the language. Hey
Yeah.
man, I just wanted to quickly. I'm gonna jump places as well because you brought up an interesting point about again. It is the seeing yourself on the screen, and you're specifically talking about an event that happened on the Sand Island. I want to back to the future kind, push you to the now,
Okay.
and briefly talk about your film Hi Hawaii, because I can see a beautiful link between what happened then in Sand Island and with your film. Um, but I was gonna explain what Hi Hawaii is about. But if you could briefly talk about how that influence of seeing yourself on the screen back then in Sand Island, and how did that how did you link your Hi Hawaii to that moment on the Sand Island?
Yeah, funny we're talking about this kind of stuff because I don't really think about it. Sorry, in in those terms, because I'm still in the moment. Yeah, so I haven't really like retrospectively looked at it. But yeah, I kind of get what you're going. For well, those who don't know, Hi Hawaii is a short film about the takes place after the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy, where this young Hawaiian boy, is recruited to steal and protect the Hawaiian flag. So he breaks into the palace during Hawaii's annexation day. And and for me, like film is healing. Um, I was hoping that that experience, when people are watching that film, they get the same exact experience that I went through when I watched Sand Island Stories. Um, uh, I didn't think I was going to make that movie specifically after I watched that documentary, but throughout those years, I realized that my films kind of uh, have that underlying um, nuance of healing, of repairing our stories, or at least telling our stories. I don't have the power to heal. But hopefully when you watch the film and you engage with it, there is so the process begins with you. So yeah, I can see, I definitely can see the parallels. I've made a ton of films throughout my career after that, and they've all kind of had that nuance. Um,
Well, I can totally agree with you because I've seen a bunch of them, and it's just a nice connection. And it was only now that while you're talking about the Saint Island incident that I'm thinking, oh wow, there's a nice historical link between what you are doing, and of course the things that happened in the past. And I just add, when I first moved to Hawaii, um, I guess if you don't know, you don't know. So I was somewhat ignorant of the things that happened here, but then this whole world opened up, and then yeah, it made me think, why? So I do appreciate what you do and other filmmakers or storytellers, what you guys do to share these very, very important stories. So thank you,
Thanks.
brother.
Yeah, no
Um,
mahalo.
there's a couple other words that came up, which purpose, and you mentioned your father. Um, it sounds like that he had some a little way, or maybe a lot in a lot of ways, inspired you because you mentioned the Hawaiian language. Could you talk about your father and how much of his passing and when he was with you guys, and how much of his teaching inspired you to move this way, or even you and your brother?
Yeah, yeah. So this is the therapy moment. Got it. Nah, just kidding. You know, it's interesting because as an artist, you kind of you use your art to help you go through the process of the emotions that you're struggling with. If you have like pasts that are troubled or issues in your families, that's a beautiful well to kind of dip into, because your emotions are authentic. um my father, he grew up of that generation where they weren't taught Hawaiian. He was already forbidden, the language already were forbidden by then. Oh, he came back. But him and his brothers and sisters was put up to a foster care system. Either actually was put in the boys and girls homes. So they really didn't have those parent figures in their lives. My aunt actually had to, when she became of age, she went back and she adopted her siblings, and they kind of fend for themselves after that. Um, so that was his upbringing. So when he was raising me, like all he could teach me about being Hawaiian was that you had to be proud. He didn't really have a lot of like the nuances of the way we have today of the culture and the language, and the vibrancy that we have today. But he knew that he needed to instill that sense of pride in me, because it was removed from his generation and the generations before. So I guess the work that I do kind of reflect a lot of that, um, in many ways. Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, when you talk about a passing of parent, I don't think I actually, I was in the eighth grade. Like, I don't think I actually processed it for many years. Like, it just, when it happened, and like my family from the mainland came down and they tried to like distract us, me and my brother, and keep us busy, and then I got into martial arts and all of this kind of stuff, but not like I didn't really have the opportunity to process it. So a lot of my work and a lot of my films kind of have been that moment where I'm finally like stopping and thinking about things, and answering issues that I had in myself, or in, as Native Hawaiians, we've had this huge void, that we've needed to fill. And
Mhm.
there's this generation today where you're so rich with this knowledge and experience and culture that they it's almost as if well they're just blessed, just very blessed. And I'm hoping to raise my son that way. So yeah, actually my dad's right here, so he's in
Yes,
that photo. Yeah, these are both of our parents.
it's very
That's Shannon's grandmothers.
beautiful,
um,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you for sharing that. I was lucky to be at this place one time where a father talked about his child, and he said that whatever your child does, you can never stop loving them, or you can never, well, you can never stop being the parent.
Right.
And it sounds like that even though your father left you guys at a young age, he still has influenced you and your brother along the way. And
Right.
that's so true what the other father said, that you can never stop. And it sounds like you, now that you're a father, you're going through, or you're going through a whole new world, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you asked yourself, um, what is my purpose in life? Um, with this new, with this new self of yours, you're still doing your creative things, but you're also now this other. You have another hat on, so to speak.
Yeah. Fatherhood, eh?
Yeah. How do you maintain that balance and you asking yourself, what is my purpose in life, and how do you keep motivating yourself?
Right. Before I get to my son, because he's definitely influenced a lot of the things that I'm working on right now. It's such a crazy thing. Like, you see other parents and you see how they've changed, but you don't really know until you become one. Um, and it's scary, but yet exciting, and it's just full of love. It's so cool. Um, but one of the things that like continue to push me in film is that I actually have this tattoo over here. It's Ikiru. It's a Akira Kurosawa film. Um, it means to live, but the movie is about a government worker who gets a severe, like a severe illness, and is almost like a death sentence, and he has to decide on what he has to do for the rest of his life, or until for the rest of his whatever life he has. Um, and I actually, so when I jumped into film, it kind of came around the same time that I found out I had lupus. Um,
Oh,
and it was one of those things where it's like, oh, like I didn't know what it was. A lot of people didn't know what it was. We just heard her horror stories, and I have a few friends that actually has lupus, and they struggled um, physically with the disease. So for me, like that was one of the first motivators why I became a filmmaker. Is like, okay, I gotta do something to like at least do my part in this world. If something happens, but at least like leave that mark, and then be good with that. Um, so far, I'm be able to still, uh, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy because I never actually talked about lupus before in anything. So it's
I
one
was
of
just
those
going to
things.
ask. Thank you for sharing all these moments, but I was going to ask, how much of a life-changing moment that was when you discovered that you had lupus. How did it propel you forward? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like because like most people, when it happened in like early 2000s, it was unclear what that disease is, and like even my aunts, because a lot of my aunts, they're Filipino, so a lot of them are nurses. So a lot of them were like, "You don't have lupus. We have to go through tests." Like, and we did all these rigorous tests. And I went to Mount Cedar Sinai, and we did all these different tests, and they
Wow.
kept confirming that it was. So like for me, it was one of those things. It's like, okay, I have this. So I just gotta be more conscious of what I do,
Hmm.
um, especially my physical body. Um, at the same time, it's like there's this like during that period there's this like this built in me. It's like, okay, now I have this clock on me. I gotta tell as much stories as I can, you know um and try to influence change, or at least try to shape stuff. And it's definitely motivated me in many ways of of the stories I want to tell. And wait, let me go back. First of all, filmmaking is so difficult. It's like I mean, I love that we're encouraging a lot of people to jump into film and to tell their stories, and you can make a movie with your cell phone, or you can be a YouTube star, whatever it is. But films, if you make multiple films, it's such a difficult journey.
Yeah.
There's so many of I mean, there's so many of us that we've tried we attempted at projects, and they've fallen apart. It's like people don't realize that when you want to make a movie, it's actually
Yes.
creating a business, and that there's business sides involved in it. It's not just the arts. And that like you're literally creating a business, that's going to exist for 2 or 3 years, and it's going to fall apart. um and So like this ticking time click, whatever it is, we just put reminding me, like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta keep pushing forward and tell these stories, even after like so many of the projects fell apart. Just gotta keep moving. And yeah, and now my son has kind of shifted that journey, because now there's like hope. Before it was more fear, now it's more hope with him.
Ooh.
That like um is like I know I have someone that I can share all of this knowledge with, that's gonna do way, hopefully, and I don't want to put pressure on him, but he does better than I I has ever had. um like luckily he has a wonderful mother that can balance that side. But yeah, it's just different.
Hey, look, our what we do now, it is the next generation, right? Hopefully, they will surpass the achievements that we have done or did. Um, Bro, with being a young, having a young family, um, has that changed your focus on what type of films you want to make?
Mm.
Is your motivation is it shifted of the type of films that you want to make, where you talk about you want to influence change?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I've already, and Taika kind of pushed it on us. Like a lot of our films, it comes out very dramatic. A lot of Native Hawaiian films in the past couple of years, they're very heavy and dramatic, and because we're going through this healing, where a lot of us are angry, a lot of us are fighting against stuff that the pains that we've been that has been forced upon us, and our community, for generations. So a lot of our films were very dark or angry, or showed the underside of what Hawaii is, outside of the glossy glamour of tourism. um,
Hey, look, I think that's important because, again, from an outsider's perspective, if you don't know, you don't know. Uh,
right, very true, exactly.
I've lived here a few, yes, I've lived here for a few, and I kind of see, but yet, if nobody's telling that side of the story, what do we get? We only get that
That
one-sided
one story, yeah.
perspective. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've done all of those stories too. So it's but now that I have my son, and something that Taiko actually told me is like, you guys got to lighten up a little bit. Um, like that's not just one side of us. We're a diverse community. We're full of love and playfulness, and you can still tell that heavy emotional story, but you need to put a little bit of your soul back into it, because you're almost reacting to what they've done to us.
mhm.
Um, so to be able to do the other side, where to make it a little bit more holistic of who we are, is what I've been shifting now with my narratives. And mainly because, that's what I want my son to go and experience, is like he has a little bit of both, now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just only in the past couple of years I've been kind of going through that shift as a filmmaker. Yeah.
Why not, right? Things
Yeah.
change and your perspectives change. And again, it will go back to the influence that you want to influence the change. Hey, look, a little sidestep here again. You mentioned Taika. Um, could you please talk about your relationship with him and the relationship or connections that you also have with filmmakers in Aotearoa, New Zealand? Um,
Yeah.
how
we
how did it come about, and what kept that bubbling? What kept the connection strong for you, or how? Yeah.
right. When I got into the industry, or when I wanted to become a filmmaker, it happened at just this opportune time where Miratamita came to the university over here, and she taught at the film school. Um, and that was huge for me. That was huge for a lot of us Native Hawaiians that went to the school, or even not Native Hawaiians. It's a lot of filmmakers that went to the school, because I mean, we had wonderful teachers at UH at ACM, but Marata she was just different. I was able to relate to her, on a different level. Even though she was our teacher, she felt more like a mom. Like, we hung out afterwards. We talked about what the film industry should be like here in Hawaii. We like there's a collective of us that would go and get Ava, and we just sit and talk with her. It was cool. It was like it was that mentorship that I never really had. And it's funny because then like I talk to the other cousins in Aotearoa, and they're like, wow, you had like the nice version of Marata. Like she like tried to whip us and like get into shape and focus and like
I agree
um
with that, and I don't have many personal stories like that. But talking to other filmmakers back home, yes, and I did. Well, I had one sit down conversation with her, and I got the sense that yeah, she was very stern. But also
right.
very supportive. But I'm glad you brought up that you guys saw the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and so she brought Taika to Hawaii. She brought even Warren. Like she started bringing all her other filmmakers from either from Aotearoa or Australia. And they kind of came down almost as mentors in some ways. She exposed us to all their films,
Mhm.
which a lot of us for some period, a lot of us filmmakers here in Hawaii would just admire the filmmakers in Aotearoa. And it was one of those things that like it's just like we aspire to become like them, like you like a lot of those filmmakers. And then we kind of like just branched off in some ways to find our own voices and here and there, but knowing that like it's possible and we can do it.
For me personally, I feel honored that I'm here at this moment because I'm witnessing this wave of creativity. It, a lot of people, but to see this wave of creativity from the local Hawaiian community in filmmaking and storytelling, dude, I feel honored that I'm here to witness that. You guys are riding on a
You're a
wave.
part of it too.
Soleh, come on. I'm just, I'm helping you. I'm helping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's beautiful, and I know talking to other people, I can sense that, and I can see, you know, everybody's doing it, and you're all contributing to this rise. Where is it going to go? The ball is in your court, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah. Um. Now that we're at this point, talking about Merita, I just want to go back to my introduction. And, bro, that was the first time I met you
Oh,
uh,
really?
gathering when we went to say goodbye to Merita
Oh,
a few years
yeah.
ago. And you were actually, I mean, I didn't get to talk to you that much, but it was outside. It's always
Yeah.
after the fact, right? You meet somebody. And so outside, you were talking with, oh, I've forgotten his name. Um, maybe it was Anthony?
Lehu? Oh, yeah, from Lanai. Yeah, I
Yeah,
met him
yeah,
with
yeah.
Anthony.
And you guys just talking story, and I came up and said hello. And it was from that moment that I felt, wow, you fellas are cool. And ever since then, bro, as I said before, I followed your path as a filmmaker and as a storyteller. So I do appreciate that. And look, that wave, you guys were pushing along, and with Melita there, um, do you feel that she pushed you guys, or that she kind of just went, how about you go this way? Does that make sense to you? Because ultimately, it's
Yeah.
you that's got to do it, right?
Sorry, what did you
Because
say?
ultimately, you have to make that move, right? Yeah.
Hmm. You know, like I said, it was a different type of relationship with Marata for me specifically. I know
Mm.
she engaged with all the other students very differently. Uh, like she was just super supportive in everything I did. She gave me advice on a lot of my films when I was first starting out and first trying to figure out my voice. Um, she like all I can remember is just telling like her reminding us that we just gotta keep doing it. Like we just gotta keep pushing. Like, because like while we were, even though there was other filmmakers before us, and I have to um like have that be acknowledged as well. There's other like wonderful filmmakers that came before us here in Hawaii. And they had a harder time. Like
Mm-hmm.
um when Marato was here in Hawaii and we were doing that was around the age that like Red was coming out. That was during that period where technology was being more accessible for us younger filmmakers. And but still, like me and some of my peers were still like we still didn't know how to do it. Like we were so naive and green that we were afraid to fail sometimes
Hmm.
because it's such a huge undertaking meant to make a movie, and she was just always that like solid support that would like, nope, you're gonna do it. Like, nope, you're gonna finish this. Even though we had doubted ourselves, like a lot of us doubted ourselves, she's like, nope, this is how you're gonna finish. And she kind of gave this path, like
Right. Yeah.
like how to do it, what you need to accomplish, who you need to talk to, how do you need to focus on, what you need to focus on. And then she kind of helped other people, like, so she was cultivating these group of a collective actually of artists almost, I feel like, 'cause some of them weren't just filmmakers, um and trying to light fires under every one of us. And I think and you see it now actually, because like a lot of my peers today are a result of her, so.
Oh, hey, I totally agree with you. Seeing that wave or the group or cohort of filmmakers that I know there are others out there, but the small group of people that I know where you're part of their group is you're all doing this. You're all doing this, building. And you know what, mate? The film festival in Hawaii, the Hawaii International Film Festival, it seems like every year you guys got a film in there, or you got a film in other festivals. So, man, you guys are riding this wave, and this wave is big, and it's going all over the Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean and Indian Ocean, all over. So, it's fantastic. And you know what? Do you remember when I ran into in Kaka'ako? I think you just come out of a pub, you and your mate. I was at another some place, and I was walking across, and I saw you. And hey, how's it going? Our conversation, usual pleasantries, and then it went into storytelling again. To me, eh, uh, our conversation always has to come back to storytelling, and I appreciate that every time we meet, we try and catch up and talk about stories. Do you ever stop telling stories?
I don't think we can,
Yeah.
as native people. I don't think we can. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's how we communicate first and foremost. We just love stories. Other people are better storytellers than I am, I'm for sure. I think you're a wonderful storyteller, by the way.
Brother,
So,
you're too kind, man. You're too kind. And I think Minister Mita or even Taika would disagree with you. You are telling your stories. You are telling your stories. What advice did they give you that has stuck with you to this day?
I mean, I kind of just said both of them. Yeah, of what both Marata and Taika mentioned about, like, like not giving up and to tell your stories, what she pushed for me. And like I said, like her advice was what I needed at that period in my career, because I was still young, learning how to become a filmmaker. Not I've never I rarely seen other local films in Hawaii, and what she did instill in me too, which is basically what I was looking for from the beginning of why I left the hotel industry, that it was a lot of work, there was involved. And like sometimes, um, like it's just when we see the amount of labor intensive involved of making a movie, a lot of I've seen it, a lot of the young filmmakers, they give up or they're not interested in it. Um, and oh, and they I just thought of something, but I'm gonna go back. They don't want to pursue it. But she reminded me that that's what the whole process is. To make a movie, you just have to put in all of the work, and you can't be lazy about it. What she actually, so one thing that she didn't formally say it to, like say it to me out loud, but when I went to film school, I went to film school after I went to the University of Hawaii. I went to film school in California at Chapman University. Um, and it was very intimidating, because my peers, and I look up to all of them, they they all wanted to be filmmakers since they were young kids. They had all these aspirations. They made a ton of movies already, and I literally started like maybe 3 or 4 years, less than 3 years before that. Like I put my hand on the camera and made a movie, and I just felt out of place, and I didn't. I felt like, yeah, man, I didn't go back home to Hawaii. Like this is like a waste of money, and I kind of miss home. I miss Hawaii. I miss my friends and family. Um, and then Marata got me into this National Geographic Film Festival with my latest film. Um, and so she came up to LA and we screened it at the Egyptian Theater out in LA with other indigenous filmmakers. And she reminded me that I belonged there. It was one of those things where it's just like, this is where we have to tell our stories. And like, and she was just nurturing it. That one is what I needed at that time. That like like we went on stage, spoke to the entire crowd of film fans, and it was very intimidating. But then it felt like like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. Like I stopped doubting myself, and yeah, I think that helped. That helped a lot.
Brother, I'm also reminded of seeing a picture of you. I have it somewhere. I should find it and probably add it to this. I think it was the Tantalus. You were on standing up there
Uh,
on the beam, or if I forget what it was. Dude, that to me was on top of the world. When I saw that, I had to. I kept that magazine.
oh no.
That, what Minister had did for you and continues to, and supporting you guys. I totally agree with that, and also with the other filmmakers, is that's where you guys belong, and look at you and the stuff that you achieved at Sundance, and the other family. Oh, sorry, family
The
ingredients.
family ingredients. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thank
the
you.
wonderful Emmy award and the Ty. Yes, you do belong there, and continue to do so. What what else can you do but keep going, keep telling your stories? So I have my little trophy of you on that newspaper clipping. So you
You're
guys
too
keep
kind,
going.
brother.
Yeah. So that was a huge achievement. Oh yeah. Speaking of achievements, what does that mean to you? To be recognized by your peers and the community, and especially on that world stage, the word Emmy and Sundance.
Yeah, it was cool. I don't really like accolades. Like I've never been one of those things. Like even in film school, like I didn't care if, um, like I didn't need the accolades to push and motivate me. It was one of those. I don't know why. Like I guess I was raised like that too. Like it didn't bug me. Um, but but like I learned that like because I'm not like, and it's one of those things growing up in Hawaii. It's like everyone's too humble ass. So like no one really knows what you do and how you do. So when you don't promote yourself, so you don't acknowledge all of that, like it's harder to parlay that to the next projects.
Right.
Um, and we noticed that in the past, like it's been hard for us to get projects off the ground because we're too sometimes. Um, and then just learning, I'm learning myself, how to start balancing that. Because like Family Ingredients competed for, we were nominated for a daytime Emmy, and like we competed. I forget who was on that list. It was about big, national shows, and then you got this Hawaii film TV show, Family Ingredients, in competition with them on daytime Emmy. So that was huge in my mind. And so like to be able to like continue to do our work, like we kind of need that support. And as an artist, like we have to promote ourselves. That was one of the things that Sundance actually taught us. Now I remember when I first got in, like they pushed that we as artists have to be our own promoters, because if you can't promote yourself, then who will? And I'm getting used to that. I'm trying to do that.
Well, look, you've done so much, and you are pushing yourself. I just want to compare storytelling filmmaking to rugby. Got to talk about rugby.
EA Sports.
Everybody has the same set of skills, right, on the sporting field, and you got to push yourself towards the goal or the try line or the touchdown zone. If you don't push yourself, then you ain't gonna reach that end goal. So how often do you push yourself, motivate yourself to keep going?
Yeah, Shannon can attest that I'm a workaholic. It's one of it was ingrained in me. I thank my parents. They worked extremely hard to give me and my brother a good life. Um, and it's just been one of those things that I've always I always need to work. I always need to
Mm.
put my hand down and get dirty and do stuff. And I feel like if I'm not doing it, I'm being lazy. I don't know if it's this part of it too. You know, it might be a combination of all of that. So sometimes it's hard for me to actually take breaks. Because I'm like, I guess what you mentioned earlier, like my storytelling abilities, it's hard to turn that off. Like even when I'm taking a break, I'm already thinking about the next project, the next story to tell. I have a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost hard for me to turn that off.
If we don't keep sharing our stories, then again it comes back to no one else is gonna tell them,
Right, exactly.
and you guys are telling them, and I'm excited about that. And oh, we gotta mention the oh, I've forgotten it. The Kanaka Maori films at the Hawaii International Film Festival.
Oh yeah.
Dude, there's a list of and I could be wrong, but when I first got here, I didn't see this the list. I don't know why I'm doing but this is wonderful to see that list of filmmakers. I know
Yeah.
there are other filmmakers you mentioned before that have done stuff and continue to do stuff, but it was nice to see that list of filmmakers showcasing their work at HIF. What does that mean to you, brother?
Yeah, I joke about it with my peers, my other filmmakers. Is like we are in a time of renaissance. It's like a second wave of renaissance. Um, like now I'm exactly like you. When I first got to the festival back in 2005 or something like that. Maybe there's a handful of Hawaii films or even Hawaiian films. There's maybe one or two you can count. And throughout the years, it was always like that. Now we're looking at these past 3 years. There's like amazing showcases. I know for sure like KIF has to actually reject a lot of some of the local films because they just didn't have enough spots for them, which is wonderful. Like I remember Marata when we're they started to do this film showcase when she was at the university and she was struggling to find films to share. Like it was just like we'd have to go back to some of our old films and share those movies, which we should still continue to do. But now there's so much filmmakers today sharing the movies, and it's great because it shows how diverse our community is here in Hawaii. Even within our Hawaiian community, how diverse it is. And last year, Hi Hawaii was actually touring the states, and it's so awesome because we toured with other Hawaii films. Like it was like a solid showcase of maybe like I think like 5 or 6 films that toured. I went to a bunch of festivals from LA all the way to East Coast and even into Canada. So
That's
our films
great.
are translating across the states, even in the world. So it's exciting times, man. Like if you love films, if you love stories, there's so much to watch and see, and like start following filmmakers. That's gonna be the fun thing. Like start like watching when you watch a movie and you start following a filmmaker and seeing their progression. Like I already do that with my peers, but like as a fan to do that is kind of exciting. So they're at that ground level right now.
Hey, I do that as well. I followed your work and everything else, and
Right.
even Erin Lau when she was a
Yes.
young filmmaker.
Yeah.
Erin, so I haven't seen everything, but I think I'm one of those guys that what do you call it, fanning or fan, going crazy. Hey,
Fanboy, you fanboy.
you fanboy. There you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Films all over and touring. Another exciting thing is seeing your film and other filmmakers here from Hawaii showcasing the work in Aotearoa, New Zealand,
yeah,
but
yeah,
also in different places. And uh, there's a filmmaking festival in Pacifica Film Festival in Australia. I saw your film and others in there as well.
yeah.
Dude, can you please share your thoughts on the Hawaii film industry? We are talking about it right now. Your films are here and then everywhere, but what's your thoughts on the growth of the Hawaii film industry? And can you dig a little bit deeper specifically about your films and other local Hawaiian filmmakers? How does it make you guys feel? Well, let's talk about you. How does it make you feel when you are part of this growth? Not just
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
but globally now. Yeah.
Right. You know, we've talked about it from the beginning, like what we want to see the industry to look like here in Hawaii. You know, what we want our stories to look like here in Hawaii. Um, I didn't know it was gonna be this long journey, but and you know what, and just probably like that was my misconception. Like I should have known like it's gonna be this long path and journey to find our identity as a community and an industry, um, because it's also evolving. You know, it's it's pretty amazing to see where we are today. To see the types of films that are being told today, compared to when we first started. And that shows to the testament of like the desire and need to hear our stories in the world. Like the fact that we're screening at, you know, like you said, in Australia, in Aotearoa, in Canada. I think we would screen in Alaska. Like there's everywhere. Europe, actually, we screen in Europe, Germany. Um, that we, you know, there is this movement now. Our stories are being respected. Like the narrative of what a Hawaii film isn't from a Western or outsider perspective. Now they know when they come here they gotta come correct and in you know, incorporate some of the local filmmakers, or I start, you know, bringing in like, and you know, there's this term we used, and it started, maybe it's an arts thing, I forget, but like this cultural advisor, the historical advisor, you know, um like if you want to make a movie you need a culture advisor, and I have that in my films too. But like we've already shown that we have the ability, that we're familiar with film, we understand the language of film, we know how to make our movies. um so if you want to tell a story about Hawaii, like you can't just bring an advisor, like they have to become producers, they need to be more in power, to tell that story or to help you shape that story, you know, like, um of course, you know, I always push that we need to tell our stories first, but like collaboration is also part of that creativity. I saw that firsthand when I went to film school on the mainland. You know, like working with talented people in this industry. You know, you they push you to a whole nother level that you couldn't imagine. And that's part of the richness of the world that we live in. And so like to just bring on an advisor, is it enough? You know, like they need to become collaborators. You know, and and we're like, we it shows that now that we have the skills to do that. It just keeps getting better and better, man. I don't know, like I'm just so excited. I just waiting. So Chris Kahunahana got a feature. We had Kale Wolford not too long ago, and you know, we just now we're shifting that direction. Hopefully we're going to features. We just need the financial support from the viewers like you.
Exactly, exactly, and yeah, people are out there supporting your work. So, but you're right; it does take a lot of hands to build that project up and to keep it going. So, is it fair to say that you? Well, this is probably a big question. Are you satisfied where filmmaking is in Hawaii is, or
That's a yeah, it's a big question, you know. And I don't know how much my producers want me to share with a lot of it. I'm extremely hopeful. Like I'm very hopeful for where our industry is today, um, because like in this that whole period of where our growth has happened, besides like the creative storytellers that we've been curating, um, in the unis, the universities, the workforce here in Hawaii with with Lost and Hawaii Five O, and then now Magnum, and then all these big TV series, movies coming in. Give it's I encourage them because it's giving work to our local crew and the actors, it giving them the exposure to like, okay, this is what you need to do to work on a big film set. There's a lot of logistical stuff that you need to know, that you have to
Oh yeah.
the only way to know it is through experience. You can't get it without experience. um,
Yeah.
so like we're growing on that side as well. So like when we start telling our feature films here in Hawaii, man, that's so exciting for me, to think about that. Like now that we have the creatives and the workforce to tell these strong stories, because in the workforce it helps to make these movies efficient, keep it within budget, and then we have the talented actors that have gained the experience, like Misa, to tell these stories. So it's still taking a while for financiers to start investing in Hawaii. It's one of those things that like it's, especially now with the pandemic, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's hard to project what next year is going to look like unless you're Amazon or Marvel. So we're still very hopeful, but I know that we have the people, the manpower, and the passion to do it. It's just that financial side is where we need to start. That's the that corner of that stool that we need to start building up now.
Yeah, brother. I wish that there was a similar. I shouldn't contrast and compare, but sometimes you just got to, or you wish there was more financial support here, because I'm just thinking about the film commission in New Zealand and the creative
Right.
sector in New Zealand, how the support is there financially, as other countries do. But I wish that there was something like more like that here in Hawaii that you guys could latch onto. Uh, Funding sources elsewhere, it does help, but to have that bucket to support you guys, a bucket full of stuff, good stuff, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would daily be a big, massive support. Um, Brother, you've gone so far, I feel, in a short amount of time with the wonderful work that you have achieved, and that in itself is inspirational. I want to just close this off. There's so much to talk to, brother, but we have to close it off somewhere. Yeah, we were just starting, brother. Um, but I want to go back in time a little bit, and yeah, being a fan, I want to briefly talk about Stones.
Mm.
It often is. It takes one thing to propel you forward, or one thing for people to see the talent you have. For me, when I saw Stones, I was mildly, not mildly, super um, happy to have seen it on the big screen.
Sorry.
How much of a, how much pleasure did you get out of uh, telling that story? Because you weren't just telling a story, brother. You were showcasing much more than just that film. Could you talk a little bit about that, please? Because that to me was a huge achievement. Yeah.
Yeah. Stones. I mentioned earlier, like all the films that I do and I tell is kind of healing for me. Um, it's a healing. Allows me to deal with the things that I've been going through. Stones was actually my thesis film at Chapman University. It's a film that I made, and like we got a lot of pushback from the school because, or mainly because like we had to. I convinced them that we had to film the movie here in Hawaii, and that's a risk for a university to send their students, because a lot of my classmates were my crew members, my above the line crew members. to another state to make a movie, spend money, and not kill themselves, So they fought a lot. Not a lot of the teachers. Some of the teachers are very supportive, but some were concerned. So like you could just film this in the back lot of like the botanical gardens in LA, and I've had all of that those type of notes, and then it's like, man, like, but you just don't understand like what it is to like when you see the island on screen. Like there's that, let's talk about representation. Representation matters. I know it doesn't matter to you because you're not familiar with it, but it's authentic to my home and to the people that will be watching it from home. And it's this, and that's such a silly thing that they think of it that way, because it's like when you make a movie, you want to try to be as authentic as you can, because it breaks the audience when it's not out of the spell of the movie. So I was just trying to be a good filmmaker. Like, nope, we're gonna make this in Hawaii. We're gonna tell this Hawaiian story. It's gonna be very slow, but it's gonna be in one language. And it was cool. It was cool that when it finally got to screen at Sundance, it like, not did it shut up the critics, but like it showed them that like what we were pushing was right. Like exactly what Murata said, like we actually belong here. Like we were trying to do this, tell our stories, do it right, and it's audiences are gonna see it on screen. Like I know you don't see it now, but audience will see it. Just have to have faith.
Yep. And brother, what you mentioned with not them seeing it, I totally agree. That's what I meant about you weren't just telling. You weren't just showing a film or making a film. It was much more than that. And you just touched on one of the things on that was, you guys gonna come and look at it from this view, not your view, okay?
Right.
And so, thank you. I appreciate you pushing and to do it in Hawaii and to tell it from your perspective. Because once they flip it, it's no longer your story.
Yeah, that's and I wanted to maybe say that that's something that Murata kind of ingrained in a lot of us filmmakers. Like like in our cohort, our little hui of Native Hawaiian filmmakers. There's it's a different process that we all go through and we all wrestle with about when we tell our stories. It's not the same. I mean, it involves the same processes of like, okay, like logistical, how are we gonna tell this story? Like, why are we gonna do this? Why are we gonna do that? But for us as Native Hawaiian filmmakers, there's an extra layer of things, that requirements that we need to go through. Like, are we going through the proper protocols? Are we speaking to the right people? Is this the right story to tell? Did we get permission? Like, there's all these extra things that we're just aware of that matter to us. And it's hard to tell that to other people that are not from here. Like, you just need to understand it. That's if you want to tell the story, that's just a process.
Hey, I agree with you totally, brother. Ty, I want to close this off and thank you so much. As we heard, being a parent or a storyteller, it doesn't stop, right?
It doesn't stop.
We gotta keep going and keep supporting our family Ohana, and of course supporting other filmmakers. And with that, I appreciate your support and being part of this little project here, where it is hoped that this Talanoa Talk Story, Share to Inspire, will indeed motivate and inspire others out there. So, brother, thank you so much.
Mahalo.
For your talk, brother.
Yeah.
We could go on.
I know. I was like, oh, we can go talk for like 3 or 4 more hours. Nah.
Yeah. We'll save that for the next chapter, brother. Right. So, thank you so much, everybody out there. I do appreciate the time that you've given to join us, to listen in to this wonderful person here, Ty Sanga, and his story. May his story help you or push you along to go for it and to reach your goal. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us and to thank my good friend here, Ty Sanga. All right.
Cheers.
Ciao, brother.